To hell with the date on your birth certificate. Let's talk about what we have in common across generations. Life, sex, and tech at any age. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy A. Shenker.
Hey, boys and girls. Welcome to the next episode of Age Blind. So because our theme is spring cleaning, I have a feather duster and rubber gloves, but Kyle told me that I need to take the gloves off because otherwise my hands will vanish when he does his green screen magic. Done. My hands are back. This is one of my favorite episode formats, which we've never really given it a name, have we?
No.
It's like just Nancy and Kyle talk about random shit.
Yeah, we have a naming structure. It's blank and blank.
Okay.
But we don't have a name for the blank and blank.
All right.
And blank and blank does not work. That doesn't vibe.
Well, we'll just stick with Nancy and Kyle.
Yeah.
And because our theme for the entire month of April is spring cleaning and how do you clean up your brain, your friend circle, your space, your work, your home, your personal life, Kyle and I are just going to riff for the next 15 to 30 minutes, shit that we find clean or dirty. And we've done these episodes before. They are a fan favorite. So without further ado, and again, just very quickly, the whole gestalt of Age Blind is that we focus on things that people have in common across generations. Kyle and I are probably 3 decades apart, but we do find that when we talk about stuff, there's a lot that we agree on and a lot that we vibe over. And
there's certain things I removed from my list because they were on yours.
Which is great. So basically, what that all tells you is that people in their 20s could have things in common with people in their 80s. So we're going to list 10 things that are clean and dirty in our lives that either we love or things that skeeve us out. So my number one, we're going to go back and forth, is I do have a habit of making my bed every single morning. Nobody ever comes over to my apartment, but there is just something about having my bed made, my coma blanket nicely folded, my throw pillows all where they belong. So even though it's this ritual of making it and then taking it apart at the end of the day, it's just nice to come home to see a tidy bed.
It gets you in the nice mindset. Like, I notice that the days where I don't, necessarily get dressed right away, if I just go start doing work first, they always feel the sloppiest or the messiest. I now have a reminder on my new login wallpaper on my phone is "You're not you when you're hungry, eat breakfast." Because I'll often get straight to work without doing those morning things. And it's like, no.
And then you get cranky. And
yeah.
Your whole day is thrown off. So what is your number one clean thing?
So engaging with best practices, I will always clean up podcast audio before editing. And even if it sounds like pretty good, I just want to clean it up. I want to make sure I know what I'm working with. And it's just nice to take care of what I can ahead of time because I have, midway through noticed, hey, there's a weird thing that I need to correct. And it's not that much work, but it feels like so much more work.
I know, but that's why Kyle and I work so well together because I'm always focused on the content and the guests, and he's always focused on audio and video quality.
It's got to sound nice.
It does.
I mean, it's got to be good content too. They're both important.
So now for a dirty, as I've gotten older, even though we're not really talking about age, I have noticed that as I've gotten older, I smell differently. Or not how I smell things, but how my body smells. And there is actually a physiological, hormonal reason for that. The same way babies have a distinct smell, people as they get older have a distinct smell. But there are ways around that.
Yeah.
Like I happen to use Loon deodorant, which has a ingredient that fights whatever chemical it is that is like the old people smell.
Yeah.
So we're sitting fairly close. I hope I smell good.
Nicer than I do, for sure.
You smell fine. So what is your number one dirty?
So we're gonna go complete opposite on the age spectrum and go back to a habit that has been terrible for me since I was little and my mom still argues with me on, which is my hair care. It's just not great. I can say I like it curly, but that's only going to take me so far. In fact, something I didn't tell you because I forgot until right now is my mom was actually going to watch an episode of Age Blind because she saw it appear on my timeline. And then she saw my hair and decided not to because she couldn't watch a whole episode. Yeah, so I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to clean it up and then I'll send her an episode with it cleaned up. Not this one. This one, it's not. I like it, but it's definitely just an excuse. I need to be.
Can AI comb your hair? Do you have to like physically comb it, or can that be like adjusted in After Effects?
You know, it probably can, but that still doesn't fix the family trips.
All right.
I'd have to be wearing a hat the whole time.
I was going to say, or just buy wigs.
Yeah, there we go.
So something that I know that you and I do have in common, because we've talked about it, we both love making lists. Like lists, spreadsheets, it gives the illusion of being in control. Even if life is totally out of control and you have a million things to do. Like I have this ritual every morning where I have a paper notebook. It's the only thing in my life that is physically paper as opposed to digital. And I make 3 columns, or it's broken into 3 columns, but I put stickers on the top of every column: self-care, passions, and work.
Yeah.
And I make sure that every week I fill out at least one thing in every column. And it gives me the illusion of control and organization, even when the shit is hitting the fan. And also analytics. Like if you can measure it, then somehow it feels like it's in control.
Oh, yeah. Analytics are one of those things that's really helpful, and I'm probably better at it than I assume I am. Just like how I think a lot of people, here's my hot take, you're better at math than you think you are. Well, because with analytics, I'm like, I'm just not good at it. And it's like, no, I'm probably fine at it. I'm just afraid of it. And it's the same with, I think, a lot of people in math. But that's a complete tangent.
Yes. So what is your number 2 clean, number 3 clean?
My second clean, our third item is, I've been doing digital art for the past 2 years, and my style is bold strokes, big colors, simple and clean. I don't even like using gradients. I like that very clean, comic-y style. So
Same, big fonts, in your face, bold. Like when I do presentations now, it's usually just a picture and 3 words, and then I talk to the rest. So I fucking
it's the PowerPoint, you have to okay, well, now I'm going to get into it. A PowerPoint, you're supposed to listen to the person. So if your thing has all the words the person is saying, then you're mixed between listening to them and looking at the words.
I know that's a sing-along. That's not a presentation.
Yeah, it's just, okay, I've never heard that phrase before. I'm sticking with it.
I just made it up.
It's good. It's really good.
Okay, this is a kind of gross one. We just did another episode where people talked about their clean and dirty secrets and things that they're dirty or clean in their lives or in their houses. But this is a bizarre scientific fun fact that I came across as I was just looking for content, that people don't necessarily like smelling other people's farts, but many people do like smelling their own. And it's a very primitive, weird habit. If you want to know why, just email me at nancyashenker@gmail.com and I'll send you the link, or you could just Google, why do people like smelling their own farts?
I mean, it's because mine smell good. That's why I like smelling mine.
But if I farted right now, you would leave the podcast.
Well, they're not as nice smelling as mine. I'm sorry.
So you're next dirty.
Yeah, so on a very related topic, I am almost certainly lactose intolerant. When we are done today, I am going to go to Culver's, and among other things, I will be having cheese curds, and I will be having custard. This is very much my diet, I'm going to say, because I grew up in Wisconsin. Lactose intolerance plus dairy-heavy diet, you can kind of piece together how that gets dirty. I'm not going to do it for you for the sake of an appropriate rating.
All right. And I will not be hanging around with you because I do not want to smell your farts after that.
You don't.
So we've talked about dating a lot on the podcast because, as many of you know, I'm single and actively dating a lot of the time. And one of the things that totally skeeves me out, and it's just somebody who farts on a date, is if I get into a man's car and it's filthy, or go into his home and it's filthy, It's like you knew I was going to be in your space.
Yeah.
Didn't you think to move the Slurpee cup or clean the cat hair off the sofa? Like, to me, that's just the ultimate sign of disrespect.
It's one of those things I don't get anymore. Back, when I was, teens, early 20s, it made sense to me. Like, yeah, you just got so much doing, your car is going to be dirty. But now I'm like, no, it's so easy to just take out the trash when you leave.
Or just like, there are plastic bags. Just keep one in your car and then put all your crap in the bag. Like, someone's coming over to your house, put everything in the junk drawer or in a closet or take out the garbage. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
So that actually was one of my cleans, because I do like men who smell good, have clean cars, have clean homes.
I am going to flip the script. I'm going to do dirty this time because it's relevant, which is men who don't do chores suck. I am men. I'm just, it's a bad habit. I have bad habits with cleaning up around the house. I'm supposed to take out trash relatively frequently. I've been better at it, but it usually piles up a little bit in a way that's not great. And I just, I'm not going to get all we live in a society on us, but, I think there is a societal aspect to a lot of men kind of skimping on chores. And I think it's bad. And I am part of the problem.
Well, but I will explain that in part to you. A lot of women, some women, I'm trying not to ever make generalizations, believe that every man in their life is the amazing Kreskin and will just know what they're supposed to do. Whereas I really think that because our brains are wired differently, a woman may notice a dirty glass sitting on a counter or the toilet seat left up, and it bothers her more than it bothers the man. So it's as simple as, since we both like making lists, making a chore list for the man in your life and saying, it would make me really happy if you did these 3 things every day. Because if someone likes you or loves you, they're going to be likely to do something sweet for you. So just make it specific and do reminders. I'm not saying you have to put the list on the refrigerator with the little magnetic letters, but find a way to remind that person. And it can go both ways, that they'll eventually remember and that behavior will become commonplace.
Yeah. We have a chore split, and then things that aren't necessarily my chores, but I need to do, we've explicitly talked about, this is the expectation. I'm like, cool.
And if either person likes to do it or wants to do it, then outsource it.
Yeah.
So my next one is a dirty. Do you know what number we're up to now? Just so we can.
We are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 6.
Yay. So yes, our compulsive list making, organizing thing is coming to the forefront. So my next one is a dirty. I'm not a germaphobe. I was watching 90 Day Fiancé last night, and there was a character on the show who was hardcore germaphobe. I'm not that bad, but something that does give me the heebie-jeebies, for lack of a better term, are STIs. I've managed to live to the age of 69 without ever having contracted one. I would like to keep that record. Did you know that chlamydia was the most common STI in the US in 2023? There were 110 million infections and 20 million new cases reported every year. And more than half of people will be infected with some creepy crawly in their life. And so, have safe sex, get tested, don't be a hoe or a player. You're just spreading the cup. You wouldn't go to a restaurant and drink out of everybody's glass. So don't put your penis in every vagina in the immediate vicinity.
So, I'm thinking of putting the penis in every glass, and that's even worse.
That is very dirty.
I don't like that. That's not a good mental image. No.
Number 6 is not putting your penis in my glass of water.
I mean, that's something I don't do, so I can count that as my clean. But no, I had to WikiHow how to kiss with my wife, who was my first sexual partner. So I'm probably safe on the STI front. I should still get tested just to be safe, but historically, I don't know if either of us have anything. No idea where we got it.
From a dirty toilet seat. It used to be the myth in the 1950s. Or sticking your penis in everybody's glass in a restaurant.
Someone's probably done it. So especially if it's sexual, someone has done it.
Well, one of the grossest facts I ever heard, I was at a restaurant conference and someone put up a statistic, claimed it was accurate. I don't know how they came up with this measurement, but that DoorDash and Uber Eats drivers, 25% of the time will eat something out of your bag, which is why they've now started stapling or hermetically sealing the bag shut. Like, it's just too tempting. Fries, you got to shake.
Smells good.
It smells good. Someone's hungry. They don't have enough money to buy what you're eating. So they just stick that hand in the bag. So hopefully that has been eliminated by stapling the bag shut.
Yeah. Honestly, my concern is less them taking things out and more them putting things in. Which, I mean, germs come from grabbing.
Right, like spitting in your drink.
Yeah.
That happened in a restaurant too. And people have told me that I've never worked in restaurants. I've only done retail. But people have told me that when servers are pissed off, they will sometimes spit in your food or pee in your food or worse. So not to have a spoiler alert, but like you have to really watch what is in your vessels of consumption, like White Lotus last night. That's all I'm going to say about that. So anyway, what is yours? So my number, I believe, was 7. Was STI?
That was number 6. Your 7 is this one.
Okay, cool. So I'm trying to live a paperless life. Sometimes it's hard. You go to a trade show, you go to a networking event, somebody hands you something. I'm collecting props, which, I would always rather have a prop than a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So I keep paper to a minimum because there's very little that I need that desperately that I can't just have it digitally on a screen or on my phone somewhere.
Yeah. For me, I consistently use reusable water bottles. Mine is over there right now. I didn't think to bring it here. It's not on Nancy. I'm pointing over in that direction.
Yes, mine is over there.
Yeah. I consistently use reusable water bottles. Plastic water bottles, I'm just not a fan. I don't often need something that clean, I guess, that clean of water. I can just get it from the tap or from like a dispenser or whatever. And I don't know the exact statistic, but I remember reading once that those plastic water bottles, disposable, some people will reuse them, but I hear that's not the safest. They're not designed for that.
Not. So you should always buy yourself. Like my daughters walk around all the time with water bottles.
Yeah.
Not only is it great for hydration, but it saves the planet. So you're doing your little bit for sustainability. So my next one is both a dirty and a clean. So I have a friend who's a aromatherapist, a modern medicine woman, and has educated me about the smells. We're not talking about farts. We're talking about smells in our environment. You go into a casino, you go into a hotel, the air is filled with fragrance. So a lot of those fragrances are ultimately killing us because they have bad stuff in them and they go into our nose and then they go into our system. But I confess, I have a thing for the Bath and Body Works plugins and that make them in seasonal scents. So it's very hard for me not to buy a chocolate marshmallow plug-in because waking up every morning and smelling cocoa, it's just like a vibe.
Smells nice.
It does. It does. There's no eucalyptus or lemony scent that quite measures up to that. And I do also have a thing for dryer sheets because there's nothing like lying down in bed or putting on a shirt and just having it smell good. And there's even a commercial with people in the supermarket like smelling shit, which is so I'm not the only one in that regard.
Yeah. Speaking of dirty, but the illusion of clean, we're going to go back to lists. That's how my lists work. Now, do I think that they can be helpful? Yes. Like the current tool I use called TickTick, not TikTok. It's different. I think is really helpful in making sure that I know exactly what I need to do for the day and making sure that I can check it off. That being said, there's a reason ever since I was young that my mother, or now, Emily, or really anyone who knows me well, will groan and roll their eyes when I say, I put it on a list. Because as I've written here, when I spend so much time reorganizing a list, is it truly helpful? And the answer is, I don't know. I think it is helpful in some ways, but I do think I spend way too much time just organizing and reorganizing in a way that makes it feel like I'm doing stuff, makes it feel organized, but doesn't really help.
Right. It's, and Kyle and I have had this conversation because he and I have two different spreadsheets for managing the podcast schedule. And each of them makes sense to us. It's how our brains are wired.
Mhm.
But his doesn't make sense to me, and mine doesn't make sense to him. So we are trying to have a meeting of the minds of our lists, or just humoring each other, saying, you can keep your list, but put stuff on my list, because if it's not on my list, then it doesn't exist.
I snuck in color coding, and I just didn't explain the color coding to you because you don't have to think about it, but it helps me stay organized.
Yes. All right. That was the list compromise. I noticed that. And I lied. I told Kyle I was not going to look at my list until he had had time to work on it, but I peeked. I confess, but I won't do it again. I'll clean that up. All right. So speaking of planning, I do plan my content for social media and for my blog and for the podcast and basically for my life in general about 90 days in advance. That is not to say that I'm not spontaneous. I just made an airline reservation for a flight that I'm taking on April 18th, and I didn't even make a return flight reservation. So I am capable of going with the flow.
Yeah.
But under that broader category of what am I doing? I was going to say, what is Nancy doing the next 90 days? I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed one third-party reference for myself.
You spent it.
I did. I can't do that again. Can I just use it in the same context? So what is Nancy doing over the next 90 days? I could tell you very specifically. That said, if someone invited me to a party or away for a weekend or to do something fun, I would be able to accommodate it. But I've always been of the belief that if you have a plan, it's then easier to shift the plan than just live an entirely free-form life. And that's just me.
Meanwhile, for me, we're not going to talk about planning stuff ahead of time, although I often do that as well. Instead, creatively, when I make a story, I like to start at the end. Now, that's not the way everyone writes. That's not the way everyone does things. But for me, structure for a story and pacing is very important. So it's helpful for me to know where are we going to end up. And the specifics of that might change, but that'll help me figure out the direction we're going the whole time.
Which is sometimes very hard in podcasting. Like we just recorded an episode and somebody was a no-show.
Yeah.
And somebody else was new. So we had no idea where she was going to go. So we're still operating in a structure, but then we kind of went with the flow based on where people were going.
Figure out the big details, let the smaller ones sort themselves out.
Exactly. And if you happen to have a podcast, that is a really key piece of advice that I would give, having done this now for well over a year, is that sometimes somebody throws a whatever at you.
Really?
Not a water balloon, but they just like a curveball. I've never been on a podcast where somebody's thrown anything at me or hit me with anything. That's usually because I knew them remote.
No, I've had people want to throw things at me, but no one's actually thrown anything.
Should we do a mock strangulation? Which is actually a great segue to my next one, which is...
You're right.
Kinky sex stuff. So I did not know when I started this podcast that would become one of my hottest, pun intended, categories. That I have now become the Miss Nancy of sexual vocabulary, sexual practices. Not that I indulge in all of them or in any of them, some of them maybe, but if my kids are listening, cover your ears. But I do really love reading about and learning about all forms of kink.
Yeah.
And different sexual styles. There was just an article in The Atlantic about polyamory. So I've always been this way from the time I was a little kid. I was interested in movies, so I took every book out of the East Hampton Library about how movies are made.
Yeah.
If I'm cooking something, like right now I'm on a gluten-free, sugar-free diet, and I obsess over recipes that don't have wheat flour in them and I could eat on my diet. So sex is no different. Since I started doing this podcast and became single 12 years ago, I'm going to just learn as much as I could possibly learn about what's going on in the wonderful world of sex. Since I was growing up. So I am a wellspring of sexual trivia at this point. And I've had several guests on who talk about their own proclivities and kink, and it's been fascinating. And thinking, if you're thinking of all these things that you could do with this feather duster. And last but not least, Kyle, what's your number 10?
Oh, I cuss a lot. You didn't hear it here because I can restrain
fucking
myself. You can restrain myself, but just like you told your kids to cover your ears, mother, cover your ears. Fuck. Shit, goddamn. I run my personal podcast is inspired by kids' cartoons, but I have to specify no, unless you're fine with cussing. No, stay away, because we just can't help it. And I'm working on being better, because especially for certain things like Apple Podcasts, they don't like the cussing. They get mad at me. So I'm working on it.
I know. In fact, I just wrote a blog post about how I was trying to use AI to make an image of a buffet of sexual body parts.
Yeah.
The AI would not let me do it because Meta has gotten very, very prudish and is keeping all pictures of penises and vulvas off the internet.
I couldn't even get Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI, to give me a PowerPoint slide saying that Theseus, the mythological figure, sucked. That's all. I just want to say, write Theseus sucks, and it refused. Be like, Theseus is a controversial figure. And I'm like, just say he sucks. I don't see what's so hard about it. I don't even consider that a swear.
It's easier to spell.
Yeah.
And yes, we don't want to, gratuitously. I try not to drop F-bombs as every other word, but I am from New York. I have a modified potty mouth. I can't help it. I can't help it. So this exercise was really great for me and Kyle, just even making our list of clean and dirty things in keeping with our spring cleaning theme. So what's next? Our summer, well, actually, May is going to be all about help, how to give it, how to get it. Our summer, June through September, is just called Hot Summer Fun. And it's going to be fun, interesting things that you do over the summer, whether or not you take vacation. It doesn't matter. The temperatures are hot. You're wearing shorts in most places. So what are some things that have carried on since childhood and some things you're now doing later in life to make for hot summer fun, including sex? So if you would like to be a guest, we do have a few spots still open. Just email me at nancyashenker@gmail.com. And you can find all of our episodes on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you happen to consume your content. And please follow me on Instagram as nancyaf_, as well as nancyaf.com, which is where I put all of my personal brand content as opposed to my business content. So my business content is primarily clean, and Nancy AF is the wild card, like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
You never know. I mean, because you plan it 90 days in advance, but they don't know.
This is true. And sometimes shit that just comes out that I was not planning on. So, Kyle, you, as many people know, have been my podcast producer for quite some time. Speaking of good sound quality, you help me look good. You help me sound good. How could people reach you if you're thinking of starting your own podcast?
If you want to clean up your own podcast, you can find me at deckerpods.com. That's it. And I offer free 30-minute consultations to discuss whatever you want about your show. Doesn't even have to be how I'll help. It's just literally, you have a question? Sure, we'll talk for 30 minutes.
Cool. Well, keep it clean. Keep it age blind. Thank you, Kyle, for another scintillating episode. Don't catch an STI, and peace out.
Yes.